But you couldn't ripen red grapes at that time in the Willamette Valley like you can now. That's our proof that there is global warming.
In terms of climate change, during the early 1980s, Pinot would not ripen. And so for several years we had a lot of rosé wines, and we started making sparkling wine, which is made with unripe grapes. And
Nouveau.
Nouveau. And we really didn't start getting good ripening seasons until the late 80s, and then in 90, from 90 on, everything since then has ripened with no problem. So
environmental issues are very close to my heart, and at the time, you know, some of us that we consider, including myself, we consider ourselves as environmentalists. We do nothing except complaining and sometimes suing, you know, the polluters. So it was really important to me that we farm holistically, and because we've done a lot of damage to our environment, to the air, soil, and water, and even our own body. We've really put a lot of poison in our system. And for me, it was just like before really understanding, I wanted to prove to myself that there are better ways of farming. At the time, a lot of either chemical companies or agriculture companies, they were just like saying, this is the way it is. We have to understand that in time and age, with so many population, there's no other alternative than the way we've done. So I just wanted to prove to myself there's other ways of creating and growing things, and what better thing than wine, because wine is so pure. And even though, you know, I just like my experience as far as farming and winemaking was just very, very limited, but I had no doubt that if I do the right thing, it would just really become something that people want to consume and enjoy.
We do have one big challenge coming up, and that's global warming. You know, I think in the short term that's going to be a boom for the wine industry here, but in the long term we will not only have to face some serious adaptation here, because most of the food and beverage, we're really climate dependent, you know, food and beverage in Oregon, but it's also instigating, you know, climate change migration with folks coming up into Oregon. You know, what's the landscape going to look like when something like 70% of our private lands are going to change hands, private ag lands are going to change hands over the next 20 years? What does that look like 20 years from now? What do we look like 50 years from now? And we got to get Oregon's so small, we're not going to be able to do anything really to affect global climate change. So what we need to look at is, how do we influence other areas to do things, or how do we find ways to adapt to a future that is not only coming, it's here. You know, we're a week earlier than last year. Last year was the warmest year. We're going into this weekend, and it's going to be what, tomorrow, 95, 98 degrees? I mean, it's going to blow away the record that was in 2003, which was a hot year here.
But it's also going to be 70 by next Wednesday.
But we're a week ahead of where we were last year, which was the earliest year.
Which is huge.
You know, I mean, when you have California picking in the end of July, you know, it's just, that's not
craziness.
And 1 out of every 4 California wines getting alcohol taken out mechanically, you know, that's just not sustainable.
It's not just temperature, it's water. There'll probably be wars over water. And so, you know, Oregon sits, we're sitting well right now, but it's ever present in my mind about the environment.
Yeah, that's going to be the biggest challenge that our industry will face. You know, forget about markets, forget about whatever. That's going to be, that'll be the biggest challenge I think that we'll face.